It began, not with a crown, but with a conference. A gathering of empires cloaked in the finery of progress. A map unfurled, lines drawn in ink and ambition that would carve a continent and claim a king's soul. Africa, the heart of the world, pulsing with rivers like veins of liquid emerald, forests that whispered secrets older than stone. The Congo Basin, a realm of unparalleled abundance, ivory from ancient herds, rubber vines twisting through the canopy like veins of black gold, minerals buried deep in earth that had never known the bite of a foreign pick. But from the cold halls of Europe came not explorers, but extractors, men who saw not a cradle of life, but a vault to be cracked. In November 1884, the great powers of Europe convened in Berlin. No African voices echoed in that chamber. No kings from the Congo or Luba peoples were summoned to speak of their realms. Instead, 15 nations, led by Germany's Iron Chancellor, debated the civilizing mission of the Dark Continent. At the center stood Leopold II, King of the Belgians, a man of middling stature with a gaze sharp as a bayonet. Belgium, a young nation stitched from the remnants of Dutch and French wars, hungered for its place among giants. But the Belgian parliament, wary of colonial debts, refused to fund an empire. Undeterred, Leopold cloaked his ambition in philanthropy. He founded the International African Association, a facade of humanitarian zeal, promising to end the Arab slave trade, spread Christianity, and foster free trade. The European powers, eager to avert conflict among themselves, recognized his claim. On February 5, 1885, the Congo Basin, over 2.6 million square kilometers, larger than the United States east of the Mississippi, became the Congo Free State. Not a Belgian colony, not even a protectorate, but Leopold's personal possession, a king's private fiefdom, 76 times the size of his homeland. He never set foot there, yet from Brussels he pulled the strings dipped in blood. Leopold's vision was born of envy. Britain had India, France Algeria, Portugal Angola. Why not Belgium, its slice of glory? But glory demanded gold. The Congo's early years yielded little profit. Ivory from elephant tusks brought some wealth, but the jungle's vastness mocked the few hundred white agents scattered across it. Administrators, Belgians, Swedes, Italians, governed from outposts like Boma, a sweltering port on the river's mouth. They were outnumbered 1,000 to 1 by the Congolese, whose kingdoms had thrived for centuries. The Congo with its iron forges, the Luba with their geometric art, the Mongo weaving tales under baobab trees. To enforce his rule, Leopold raised the Force Publique, a mercenary army of 19,000, recruited from African porters, Caribbean veterans, and white officers drunk on unchecked power. Paid in commissions, not salaries, they were incentivized to terrorize. Rifles from Europe, chicots, hippopotamus hide whips for the rest. Their mission, extract at any cost. By the 1890s, fortune smiled cruelly. The bicycle boom in Europe, followed by the automobile, ignited a frenzy for rubber. Pneumatic tires demanded latex from wild vines, and the Congo's forests brimmed with Landolphia creepers. Prices soared from 75 centimes per kilo in 1890 to over 4 francs by 1900. Leopold's coffers, once barren, overflowed. Between 1896 and 1905, he pocketed 70 million Belgian francs, enough to build palaces, zoos, and arcades in Ostend. But rubber was no gentle harvest. Vines grew deep in the undergrowth, far from villages. To gather it, men slashed stems, smeared latex on their bodies to dry in the sun, then peeled it off in agonizing sheets. A single quota demanded days of toil, miles of trek through fever-haunted swamps. Leopold's decrees of 1891 and 1892 sealed the fate of millions. All vacant land, every inch not under active cultivation, was declared state property. Natives became serfs, bound to deliver ivory, rubber, and food taxes in kind. Villages were assigned quotas, so many baskets of latex per moon. Failure? Not an option. The system was simple in its savagery. Soldiers of the Force Publique raided settlements at dawn. Women and children herded into stockades as hostages. Men driven into the jungle with empty baskets and threats. "Bring the rubber, or watch your kin burn," the officers barked in broken Lingala. Chicots cracked across backs until skin split like overripe fruit. Rifles barked for emphasis. To curb wasteful ammunition, commanders demanded proof of kills. A hand for every bullet fired. Baskets of severed palms, smoked over fires to preserve them, piled high at outposts. Not always fresh kills. Old graves were rifled, bodies exhumed, but often enough they came from the living. A man too slow with his quota, his right hand lopped off at the wrist, cauterized with gunpowder, children no exception. In one village, a father cradled the tiny blackened hand and foot of his 5-year-old daughter, punishment for a shortfall, before soldiers dragged her away and ended her cries. Villages that resisted, torched. Fields razed so survivors starved. The red rubber, stained with blood, shipped downriver to Antwerp, where it greased Europe's wheels of industry. Factories churned tires for bicycles that carried bourgeois families on Sunday jaunts. Cars for the elite, rumbling over boulevards built with Congolese gold. The toll mounted like a fever. Disease stalked the weakened, sleeping sickness carried by tsetse flies, ravaged camps, smallpox unchecked. Starvation as food crops withered untended. Historians reckon 10 million dead, half the Congo's population, between 1885 and 1908. Not all by bullet or blade, but by the slow grind of a machine designed to break bodies and spirits. Genocide by quota. Extermination masked as commerce. The horror seeped out drop by drop like latex from a cut vine. Missionaries first bore witness. American Presbyterian William Henry Shepherd, a black explorer from Virginia, ventured into the Kasai region in 1899. He found a charnel house. In one outpost, Officer Guillaume van Nostitz commanded a rubber station. Shepherd counted 81 severed hands dangling from a rafter, curing over a smoldering fire. "We killed 80 or 90, the local chief confessed, voice hollow. The women held until the men returned with baskets. Shepherd smuggled out photos. The first visual indictment. Published in American papers, they showed lines of naked prisoners, wrists raw from manacles, children with stumps where hands should be. Then came George Washington Williams, the Black Eagle, a Civil War veteran, lawyer, and the first African-American to interview the Kaiser. In 1890, he paddled the Congo, posing as a US envoy. His open letter to His Serene Majesty King Leopold II scorched the page. Did you not, by deliberate design, reduce to a condition of absolute slavery the natives of the Congo? He catalogued rapes, burnings, child soldiers press-ganged into the Force Publique, boys as young as 10, rifles heavier than their frames. But it was Edmund Dean Morel who lit the fuse. A Liverpool shipping clerk, Morel noticed the imbalance in 1900. Steamers left Europe laden with guns, chains and ammunition, no trade goods, returned bulging with ivory, rubber, ebony. This is no commerce, he realized. This is plunder. From his desk, Morel built the Congo Reform Association. Pamphlets flew, Red Rubber in 1906, a bestseller that branded Leopold's regime a crime against humanity. Mark Twain penned King Leopold's Soliloquy, a savage satire where the king whines, "I have crushed underfoot perhaps 10 million men, women and children." Arthur Conan Doyle thundered in The Crime of the Congo, contrasting it with British decency in Nigeria. In Britain, Roger Casement, future Irish martyr, led a 1903 commission. His report, smuggled past Leopold's censors, brimmed with survivor testimonies. "When I was a child," one man recalled, "the sentries shot at people in my village because of the rubber. They killed my father." Casement tallied villages depopulated, forests stripped bare, a land haunted by ghosts. The scandal erupted. Petitions flooded parliaments, 100,000 signatures in Britain alone. Women in white, suffragettes arm in arm with abolitionists, marched on Buckingham Palace. In the US, the Presbyterian Church thundered from pulpits. Even in Belgium, whispers grew to roars. Socialists in Brussels decried their king's oriental despotism. Leopold stonewalled. He dispatched the Commission for the Protection of the Natives in 1904, a whitewash of missionaries and loyalists who rubber-stamped minor tweaks. Quotas eased slightly, but the machine ground on. Profits peaked at 10 million francs a year. Leopold built the Arcade du Cinquantenaire in Brussels, a triumphal arch mocking the misery that funded it. By 1908, the tide turned inexorably. Rubber vines exhausted, prices crashed as plantations rose in Asia. International pressure, from Washington to Berlin, forced Belgium's hand. On November 15th, the Parliament annexed the Free State, rebranding it the Belgian Congo. Leopold surrendered, but not without gouging, 110 million francs extracted for debts, plus 50 million in future royalties. He burned archives in a bonfire of vanishing evidence, dying in 1909 amid whispers of damnation. The new regime, milder in rhetoric but rooted in the same soil. Forced labor lingered, borders rigid, wealth outward bound. The Congo's precedents echoed. Quotas became taxes, hands replaced by fines, but the extraction endured. Leopold's horror was no aberration. It was a template. The concession system, privatized plunder zones, spread like rot. In French Congo, under Governor-General Savognin de Bratza's successors, similar abuses claimed hundreds of thousands for rubber and timber. German Southwest Africa birthed the Herero genocide of 1904, with concentration camps and extermination orders, inspired by Force Publique tactics. Even Britain, the civilizers, aped the model in Nigeria. Hut taxes driving labor to palm oil estates, villages razed for shortfalls. The Berlin Conference's effective occupation clause demanded proof of control. Violence was the currency. Leopold's regime normalized atrocity as efficiency, genocide as governance. It whispered to every colonial desk, extract at all costs. The human ledger written in red. Decades on, the scars fester. The Belgian Congo, independent in 1960 as Zaire, then Democratic Republic of Congo, grapples with shadows. Resource curses of coltan and cobalt fueling phones in the global north, militias echoing the Force Publique. Up to 6 million dead in conflicts since 1996, many over minerals Leopold first coveted. Today, reckoning stirs. In 2020, amid Black Lives Matter's global fire, Belgians toppled Leopold statues, equestrian bronzes that once glorified the Builder King. Streets renamed, schoolbooks rewritten. King Felipe, in a 2020 letter to President Felix Tshisekedi, expressed deepest regret for painful episodes. But apology, reparations, the debate rages. In the DRC, youth reclaim the narrative. Artists etch severed hands into murals. Historians tally the lost 10 million souls, per Adam Hochschild's King Leopold's Ghost, a 1998 tome that resurrected the buried truth. Museums in Boma display the baskets of hands, not as relics, but warnings. The Congo's rivers still run, forests breathe, but beneath, the veins run red with memory. Leopold's ghost lingers not in palaces, but in the quotas of today, cobalt for electric dreams, extracted by hands too small to hold the future. The spirit Leopold sought to crush endures. In the laughter of markets, the rhythm of Nkisi drums, the unyielding green of the basin. Colonial violence set precedents, but it could not script the end. The Congo, cradle and crucible teaches, extraction ends when extraction is refused. The tide, once turned by witnesses like Morel and Shepherd, turns again toward justice. It began with a conference, and perhaps it ends with confession. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button below. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye for now.